Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. The time is 25 minutes past the top of the hour, and we're launching into an interview. You know how I always speak about the need for us as a people to focus on our states, demand development from our states, quiz the states on what they're doing. Excess funds are going to your states. Your local governments are also making more money. They're getting a lot more money from the FAC, the allocation. And all this is happening every single day, every single month, and every time you look anywhere, whatever it is that you're doing, you see that there is so much happening around you. But you know one mistake we often make, which is what I speak about every time. The mistake is that we often only focus on the federal government. We hardly ever speak about the state government. But you know, on this show, that is not the case. We take you up and about, we quiz and discuss what is happening in our states, the money that is coming in, and if a state government is doing any project that would directly impact, well, almost every project directly impacts the people. It's just that it might be positive or negative. But whatever it is that happens, when that project starts, we bring that project to you for you to be the judge. This morning, we are going all the way to, still remain in Southwest, but we're going all the way to Ogun State, the Gateway City. There's a project over there that has to do with Gateway. We want to get clarity and understanding on what this entire project is all about. And that is why this morning we're engaging with the Honorable Commissioner for Transportation, Engineer Olugbenga Dairo. He will be joining us right now to have a conversation around what really is happening in terms of development. You've all heard of the Gateway Airport. You've heard of the talks by the governor saying the license that the airport got is one of a kind, and no other airport has that kind of approval or license. And it's cargo. Some are saying it's for passenger. All this, we want to get into it right now, so that maybe when you hear this, you contribute your bit as a listener, or you go to your governor as well and demand for dividends of democracy. Let's welcome to the studio this morning Engineer Olugbenga Dairo, the Honorable Commissioner for Transportation in Ogun State, joining us from Abeokuta. Good morning, Engineer. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Gowdy. My pleasure to be with you this morning.
Yes. Do I take it that the way you sound this morning is as a result of the pressure in getting the Gateway Airport to function?
You're absolutely right. The last few weeks have been very busy for all of us, and we all have to pull out every stop to ensure that we meet His Excellency's deadline, that we achieved the full certification of Gateway International Airport by last week. And to the glory of God, we're able to achieve that objective. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So before we get there, listeners, we are live on Facebook. Go to our Facebook page at Lagos Talks 913 to be a part of this conversation this morning. My guest once again is Engineer Olugbenga Dairo, the Honorable Commissioner for Transportation in Ogun State, and we're discussing more on the Gateway Airport, but of course we'll look at other developmental stuff happening in Ogun State. Now, so back to you, Engineer Dairo. Of all the developments that could happen, you chose to have an airport, to establish an airport in Ogun State, in spite of the fact that currently in Lagos we have the Murtala Mohammed Airport, and there are talks of creating or building or constructing another airport where towards the Lekki axis, which will even make movement into Ogun State easy. Why did you decide to go into constructing an airport in spite of all this?
Thank you very much for that very important question. I think the airport project is a vision of the governor of our state, really, His Excellency Prince Dapap CON. When he was campaigning for office, he was determined to accelerate the industrialization and economic development in Ogun State. And that was a manifesto commitment of his that he promised the people of Ogun State that on arrival in office, he wanted to turn Ogun State into the investor capital of Nigeria, inviting all kinds of manufacturing, processing, economic activity across the state. And one of the first things that he did when he took up office was identify various economic clusters across the state that would serve as anchor towards achieving this economic vision of his. And critical to economic development is transportation. He was very aware of that without connectivity, without access, without mobility of both persons and goods, it's very difficult for economic development to take place at the pace that he wanted. And so the very first thing he did was to create the Ministry of Transportation, because before his government, there was no Ministry of Transportation in Ogun State. So he created the ministry and then charged us to develop a strategic transport master plan for Ogun State that will meet the aspirations of his government. And part of that, of course, is to ensure that, as I said, there's connectivity, not only within Nigeria or within Ogun State, within the Southwest, within Nigeria, but now with the airport, we have global connectivity. So the airport basically placed Ogun State on the global map. Industry across the world, and Ogun State is no exception, global activities. We take raw materials from all parts of the world and, of course, parts of Nigeria. And the idea is, of course, to export things to parts of Nigeria, to the region, the West African region, to the African continent, and also beyond. And to support all that, you need serious transportation infrastructure. So the airport is one of the strategic infrastructure that we are planning and implementing in Ogun State. Alongside the airport, we are doing inland dry ports and also a seaport at Olokula in the eastern part of Ogun State.
Now, I mean, what you said is understandable, but many will still ask, by the way, what was the initial budget for this airport? How much was earmarked for it? And how much did you end up spending on constructing this airport?
Well, this conversation is not about the cost of the airport. I'm here to discuss the value the airport has to the economic development of our
I'm going somewhere. I'm going somewhere with that.
That's why I don't know where you're going with it.
Okay, so let me tie this in because we'd like to know. Because what we do is to ensure that Nigerians follow projects, they contribute where necessary, and they remind government of certain things in it. So now where I'm going to is this. If we look at the value, I mean, the cost of the airport and the idea of creating an airport, like you said, you already have an inland seaport, an inland port that you're working on, and a seaport. Would the airport have been the most appropriate project to launch in at that time? That's what we're looking at. So to look at, were there options, looking at the cost of putting up the airport, the hurdles you had to scale?
The airport is not a financial investment, it's an economic investment. And I don't know whether you understand economics to the extent that strategic investments are not things where you seek to recover your cost overnight like you're running an industry business. This is a strategic investment that its impact in Ogun State and I dare I say across Nigeria will run for years to come. It's to accelerate and to provide impetus for economic and industrial activity in our state. In fact, as we speak, Ogun State is already the economic capital or industrial capital of Nigeria. The vast majority of industry that are serving Lagos, for example, are now located in our state. Those who are previously in Lagos are transferring even to Ogun State because we have the capacity to absorb them. And it is industry that was telling us that given the landscape, there is need for connectivity to the rest of the global community. Industry themselves are saying so. And not only are we responding, but the airport is responding to the vision of the governor, but the business users who are the critical job creators in our state, economic developers and the instruments of government development are asking for it. This airport is certified only last Friday. Already we have two airlines that are interested, showing commitment and interest in beginning to serve industry in our state. So it's a confirmation of the philosophy behind this particular investment that is one that is likely to set Ogun State very well on the path of extraordinary economic growth as time comes.
All right. And talking about license, the
It's a
governor,
wise investment for us.
okay, it
Sorry?
is a wise investment, but you still don't want to share the costs so
No,
that
I mean,
people can monitor it. Okay. Well, beyond this now, when you look at this entire construction, you've spoken about the fact that you have last week, the governor himself said it that there were people that some airlines are ready. I think he said one last week, but you said two today. These airlines, are they more of cargo or passenger airlines?
both one cargo, one passenger at the
All right.
moment.
And from the master
When the
plan that you
governor was
have,
speaking last week, when the governor was speaking last weekend or last week, he was referring to the cargo airline that was serving the airport with two flights a week from the UK.
okay, a cargo airline, two flights away from the UK. Now you
Yeah,
have a passenger airline that will also be servicing that. Is it domestic or international? Foreign airline?
domestic at the
Domestic.
moment. Domestic.
Okay. All right. So when we look at this, from your master plan and the original plan you had for the airport, which
Yeah.
was meant to be the focus? Cargo for the industries that are in Ogun State, or is it more of passenger?
The business case for the airport is based on cargo traffic. Um, that's the business case. But of course, there's the opportunity also to operate passenger services for the convenience of people who are in Ogun State. But primarily, the business case for this airport is based on cargo. But in terms of taking traffic off competing airports in the neighborhood, serving the needs of industry, the faster and rapidly growing industry in Ogun State,
Mm,
that's where the business case is predicated on. And it's easier to serve, less expensive to serve cargo. Cargo is not usually dependent upon time, convenience, and so on. So it's based on cargo. That's why we have a runway, which is the longest in Nigeria that can accommodate all the very big cargo aircrafts that serve haulage and cargo across the globe.
mm. And with this, what is the well, not passenger this time, but the traffic, the annual traffic volume of airlines that you expect to accommodate annually when it's at peak, and which was the volume you expect to start with?
Well, to start with, we're looking at operating as or matching operations at Murtala Mohammed Airport. So generally speaking, the operational arrangement is set up that we can accept at least two large aircraft operations every single day. So the infrastructure that is there now is our first phase of infrastructure. The idea is for the airport to grow infrastructure-wise as demand and activity increases. An
Mm,
initial setup is basically first and foremost match what is we have at Murtala Mohammed Airport and possibly even at Ibadan Airport, which are the competing airports within our catchment area, so to say. So if we can serve two large aircrafts operationally, servicing them, throughputs, managing the customs activities, the inspection activities, the management of industry and people who are actually passing goods through, then we are starting off on a good footing. But the idea is that as time goes on, we're going to develop capacity. So
mm,
as of today, we have two major big warehouses at the airport. But of course, that can increase because we're in Ogun State, where we have an expanse of space and land. The opportunity to expand is there as traffic and demand grows.
mm. But when you look at this, for example, I mean, you said like rightly you're competing with Lagos and Ibadan, but you already have an international airline ready to do cargo. But one of the challenges we have in West Africa is freight, or I mean, of goods and across the West African region. Have you considered agreements, particularly with landlocked countries like Niger, Burkina Faso, and in doing making the freighting of their goods to them easier rather than go by road? Because Niger, for example, I can say for a fact, during a conversation with the president of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Niger, he said that they don't use Nigerian roads because of the hurdles they need to cross. So they go as far as Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire to bring in their goods. Can this airport be a game changer that will bring more cash flow into, or FX flow into the country?
Going into Nigeria or into Niger.
No, into Nigeria, of course. I'm more concerned
So,
about Nigeria.
yeah, because you're talking about Niger, if they want to fly in goods into Niger through our airport, the same challenges that you just described about transport, land transportation challenges between our part of Nigeria and Niger will still remain. And the airports basically serve as hubs that serve more or less the neighborhood of where they are situated and located.
No, no, maybe you didn't get my question. What I was saying is when they import goods, they often clear their goods from La Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. And they even go to the
Uh,
extreme ports in Ghana, which is Takoradi Port. But I'm
all
saying
right.
that stay in the proximity, and since you're a full cargo airport, have you
Yeah.
considered um, encouraging them to clear their goods here and drive it all the way to your airport, warehouse it there, since it's just a short proximity between the Lagos ports and your airport, and just freight it over there as against moving by road, doing road cargo? Yeah, have you considered having a partnership, or have you engaged all these landlocked countries in any such conversation?
Sorry, I still don't understand the question. What you are saying is that rather than them receiving their goods in Togo or
In
Accra
Togo,
or in Ghana,
yes. Yeah, so
they
you
should receive
encourage
it.
them to come here and use your airport as against
Oh,
going by
okay.
road, which is a longer. Have you considered that kind of treaty and partnership deals with these countries?
We haven't done that yet, but obviously it's an opportunity that we've identified there that is worth and merits exploration as time goes on. As I said, our immediate focus is serving the needs of industry within Ogun State and within also the catchment area where the airport is located, which is Southwest region and a little bit beyond. Um, and but if there are opportunities for us to serve other countries in terms of their own particular needs, look, we are part of the Africa Free Trade Agreement, so certainly industry that is trading with other African countries will take up the opportunity and the of our airport in Ogun State. But that is industry led, not necessarily ourselves. So if an airline comes and says, "Look, I want to serve DJ, I want to serve Kenya, or South Sudan, or wherever in Africa," it's an operational issue, not necessarily the airport owners issue. So we create the facility, we maintain the facility, we make sure the facility is there, ready and able and available for airlines and operators who want to serve various needs.
Right.
So
Okay.
now
So,
our job,
mhm.
yeah,
So a quick one here before we go on a short break.
yeah.
With this license that you've got, which we'll come to after the break, when do you expect to start full operation?
Well, I am in the next, before the end of this month, by the grace of Almighty God, we will see operations started. Sending the passenger air services to Abuja and Port Harcourt,
Mm. We'll begin before the end of this month.
inshallah.
All right, great. And well, we need to take a short break right now. When we come back, we'll get into more conversations about the operations of the airport. We'll hold you for another 10 minutes. We know it's still Monday before you get into your Monday meetings. So we'll hold you for another 10 minutes then just after this break. Do not change your dial. I've been in a conversation with Engineer Lugbenga Dairo, the Honorable Commissioner for Transportation in Ogun State. We're discussing the Gateway Airport. Do not change your dial. My name is Olua Kayode. Thanks for staying with us and welcome back to the studio. This is Lagos Talks 91.3 FM. The time is 12 minutes to the top of the hour, and we're engaged in a conversation with the Honorable Commissioner for Transportation, Ogun State, and that is Engineer Olugbenga Dairo, who is joining us virtually from the Gateway City. Thank you for staying with us, Engineer Dairo. Okay, we can hear you, but we know that you've
Right,
joined.
yes, I'm back. Thanks very
Okay,
much.
great. So when you look at this airport, one challenge that a lot of Nigerians have with government establishments, big projects like this, is the operations, the management. What is the
Yeah.
operation management structure you've put in? Is it going to be government driven? Are you setting up a special purpose vehicle, or are you having a management partnership with another company?
Right. The first I don't know, advantage, I think, that I would say that we have in the state, luckily for us, is that the governor, who's the visionary of the airport, comes from a private sector business background. And therefore is not a government official per se, but somebody who has been involved in business and in commerce and the private sector at the very top end of the private sector. So he brings private sector management, understanding, philosophy to the business of government in Ogun State. So you will not be surprised to note, therefore, that we have a variety of or hybrid of management options for this airport. To start off with, we have set up a special vehicle for managing, for owning, in fact, and then managing and operating and maintaining the airport. And the long-term vision is for the airport itself to be concessioned to a third party who will take up the development of the airport as well as the management, operating, and maintenance of the airport. We are at the very early stages of discussions with our private sector partners on this particular subject matter, and we hope that we shall conclude that in the fullest of time.
All right. And final question before I let you go. When such a huge project, okay, maybe two
Yeah.
questions in one. First of all, how long did the construction take?
It took about 3 years to complete.
About
We
three
had to
years. So,
construct a
mm,
long runway, control tower, terminal buildings,
all right.
fire facilities, and so on.
As it stands now, is it
Yeah.
fully constructed, or there are still parts of it that are under construction, but the major part is done? What is the current state?
The major part is done. The first phase of the airport is done, sufficient, of course, for it to achieve the certification and the permits of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. But the airport is a continuous development. We have one runway at the moment. In future, it will have a second runway, for example. So that space and the capacity for that is there. We are discussing with various entities that want to set up MROs, maintenance facilities at the airport, those who want to develop flying schools and other aviation activity around there. So that's all included in the master plan of the airport, which it will roll out as time goes on. But the first phase, to get operations started, to begin to serve the needs of industry and indeed the population of Ogun State, is already in place. And that is why NCA were able to certify the airport last week.
Okay, so from the first phase is fully done. There's no other construction going on except when the second phase starts.
Well, there's always development activity at all the airports across the world, and Ogun State is no exception, or the Gateway International Airport is no exception.
All right. Now, when you look at this, the airport is done. You're there to take cargo, heavy cargo. What is your plan to ensure that both state-owned roads and federal government-owned roads are motorable enough, and that alone would not be a hiccup or a glitch, discouraging people from using the airport?
That's a very, very, very important subject matter you touched upon there. Of course, us being transportation people, you will not expect us to do any less than ensuring that the connectivity on which the value on which the airport itself is predicated is compromised by not ensuring that access to the airport is seamless, is congestion free, is safe, and that the airport is easily accessible. The airport has a number of critical success factors. What you just mentioned here is one of them. And the government is obligated to ensure that all access opportunities to the airport is prim and proper, And that as development continues, further development of connectivity and access will also continue in parallel with the development of the airport. And we're discussing with Lagos State extensively, which is where you are at the moment, about various connections, even by alternative modes of transport, including railway, not only road connection, but railway to that particular airport. It's an important critical success factor.
All right. And looking at this, one aspect of it that is very dear to my heart, because right here we often encourage people, believe in government, contribute to development, do your own bit, and let the nation grow. One thing we often
Yeah,
speak of is agriculture, that
yeah,
a lot of people should go into agriculture. But
yeah.
one feedback we get every time from our own research and feedback from our listeners and our farmers is that a lot of the roads are not motorable. With a cargo airport right now, that is an opportunity for a lot of these farmers to export their goods or their products. What are you doing to ensure that access roads to all these farms are done and motorable enough to encourage exports?
Well, since 2019, 2020, when this government took over, notwithstanding the COVID intervention, 1,000 kilometers of roads in Ogun State has either been reconstructed, rehabilitated, or newly constructed. Those of you who are based in Lagos perhaps will be familiar with the Jebu-Dekwe road
Yeah.
that was commissioned a few years ago
Mm.
as an example
Yeah.
of the
We've seen
critical
roads
infrastructure.
along the Agbara axis too. We've seen that
Agbara
done.
axis,
Yes.
exactly.
But what
So,
about the farm roads? That is critical to us right now.
yeah, this applies not only to major strategic connections, but also to rural roads across the state. That's why I said 1,000 kilometers of roads here, there, and everywhere. Both strategic state roads, even federal government roads, as well as local government roads, have all been under some form of intervention or the other. And the idea, as you've just identified, is for us to ensure that farm produce can get from farms to market and also from market to international hubs like Gateway International Airport. We are working with the World Bank in a rural access program across Ogun State, where various rural roads are being developed to various standards, depending, of course, on the demand and the traffic on those roads.
All right. And
Across the state.
one thing we'll do is that when we get feedback from our listeners, because we have a lot of listeners from Ogun State,
Yeah.
once we get feedback from them, we will reach out to you to say, these are the roads they are talking about. What can we do to them? Because any project that involves the people's funds must succeed. But finally, the licensing that the governor was so excited about, saying it's never been given before to any airport. Correct me if I heard him right. What does that mean? What kind of licensing is it?
Well, about 2 years ago, new regulations came across the world by the by the NCAA that requires all airports to achieve a full aerodrome operating license before they are allowed to operate. Our own application for licensing came within that 2 year period, and therefore we are obligated to proceed for this kind of license. Prior to that, all other airports have certification, which is different. And all other airports across the country have been given about 2 or 3 years for them to meet the standards that we have met with our airport. So in another year or two's time, now you'll see several airports who will be struggling, who I'm sure will be scrambling to try and obtain this kind of license. Otherwise, they'll be shut down. There are about 5 international airports in Nigeria: Lagos, Port Harcourt, Abuja, Enugu, and perhaps Kano. Yeah, those are the ones that are the sharp end of certification. And several other airports across the country, state-owned ones mainly, and other ones that are owned by the private sector operators, majorly in the oil industry. They're all required to ensure that they have this certification, the operating aerodrome operating license that we have achieved. They must get it within the next year or two. Otherwise, they will not be able to operate those airports.
I was going to get into what does this aerodrome thing mean, but we'll get into, I mean,
And
that'll be a conversation for another day, and I'm not sure you're an expert in the NCAA operations to give us details in that. But we want to thank you, though some of my listeners have tons of questions for you from them, which I can't address right now, unfortunately. But one quick one is where is the airport located, and why the choice of that location?
the airport is located between two towns in the state called Ikperu and Ilisho. And there are several reasons for the airport being there. It's at the center of a special agricultural processing zone that's been developed by the state in conjunction with the federal government and the African Development Bank. It's in an area that is identified as an economic cluster within our state. It's in the center of the state, equidistant from the east and west, and the north and south of our state. It is situated in an area that is well served and connected by the major highways, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway and the Benin-Shagamu Expressway. So it's one that is an area that been identified even years ago as a possibility for an airport, and it ticks all the metrics for airport location.
All right.
In terms of terrain,
Mm.
availability of land, flight path, and all the rest of it.
All right then. So maybe since we've had incursions into Mowe, maybe we should consider that is Lagos extending our territories towards Ileshan so that we can claim that place as well. Thank you so much, Engineer
Right.
Olugun Gadairo, for your time this morning. We wish Ogun State the best in this venture.